So here we go. This is what I've been talking about. We had what it seemed like 3 months of Saturdays, consecutive Saturdays with events. And now we get a couple weeks off, and I couldn't be more excited for this show and the 3 shows we have to end 2019. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I do like that. I think the UFC needs to do a better job of building in those breaks, and they're maybe not as consistent. Like not 3 weeks, not as long as we just had, or 2 weeks. But just a little more consistent. A couple, 2 or 3, 4 events in a row, and then a week off. And then 3 or 4 events in a row and a week off. We had 2 weeks off here. We've got 3 events, and I believe we have 3 weeks off before we get into 2020. So I'm looking forward to it. We got a lot of fun fights. Connor's coming back to fight Donald Cerrone. John Jones is fighting. We're going to see a number of... Finally, Tony Ferguson versus Khabib is lined up. It's going to be a fantastic 2020. Before we get to the end of 2019... and round it out, we've got 3 sets of awesome events we want to look at. And again, I apologize for the delay in getting this out there. It's just been one of those times. But welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. Always, I am your host, Scott Johnson. And on this episode of the show, we are breaking down the upcoming UFC on ESPN 7 event, which will go down in Washington, D.C. on December 7th, featuring 5 main card fights. I will have predictions for all 5 of those fights here on this show. All of my preliminary picks, as per usual, will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. You can check them out there. You can also check out the bet packs, which I'll talk about momentarily. I'm coming off a 7-4 event. It wasn't awesome. I got a couple nice fights correct, but it didn't turn out the way I was hoping. We lost a couple fights that hurt us in the end. Now, I always like to see if I can hit 300. I've never hit 300 wins in a calendar year. I hit 299 in 2014. Last year I hit 296 and just shit the bed at the final event. Right now I'm sitting at 276. For the last 3 events, I have to average 8 wins over the last 3 shows. That's doable, especially if I can get 9 or 10 in this show, and I certainly could pull away. Regardless, I'm very much looking forward to this card. The bet packs will be up for sale. You'll be able to make, I do a full betting breakdown for anybody who's new to my show. You can check that out for $15 top to bottom. Also, follow me on Twitter at KO_predictions. As you may have noticed, I've added a number of Twitter followers recently. Thank you very much for tuning in. We will hopefully expand those numbers. We're closing in now at 500. It seemed like before we were just over 300. So we're certainly closing, adding the numbers there. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. Click the like button, all those other fun things. I've been rambling. Feel like I'm a little bit out of practice, which is quite possibly the case. Let's get to our first main card prediction. Fight number 1 of the main card transpires in the UFC's bantamweight division and is a really fantastic fight as the 9th-ranked Cody, the Spartan Stamann, 18-2-0, takes on the 13th-ranked Song Yadong with a current record of 14 wins, 4 losses, and 1 no contest. Now, Stamann's coming off a decision victory over Alejandro Perez, which was a rebound from his Aljamain Sterling submission loss. That was his first loss in 11 fights, only second in his career. So the guy's put together a good run. For Yadong, he's coming off a win over Alejandro Perez as well, winning it by knockout. He's won 7 consecutive fights, including a 4-0 run in the UFC. Yadong is the taller man by 2 inches. He'll also have a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's the younger fighter by 8 years. Now, both fighters are physically strong with capable ground skills and striking skills as well. It's a very good matchup. This is really a good bit of matchmaking here. And I'm looking forward to it very much. Now, the thing that stands out to me first, Stamann has been all about the takedowns for the most part in his UFC run, with the exception of the Brian Caraway fight. He had 12 takedowns in his first 2 UFC fights against Aljamain Sterling. He scored 3 takedowns, but he didn't pick up any against Perez. He attempted 8 takedowns, landed none. And without a significant takedown advantage in that fight, the striking volume was very close. And he's not a guy who's going to go out there and just put a whole pile of strikes on you, like these vertical strikes, and blow you out of the water that way. And we saw that in that fight. He still won the matchup. And it had a lot to do with being more impactful and Perez sitting back a little bit and Stamann using pressure. But without the takedowns, that did alleviate or remove one of his crucial elements. Now, can he take Yadong down? That's a great question. Song has given up 0 takedowns in the UFC. His first 2 UFC opponents combined over 300 takedown attempts, and that's what he's seen since. So really hasn't been tested by a good grappler or a good wrestler, and that's what Stamann could bring to the table. Now, that being said, Song is working out of Team Alpha Male, who are, we know the camp, what it brings to the table here, and that's worth knowing here. And he's made incredible strides defensively and offensively. And he could actually go offensive with his wrestling here. Stamann's been taken out on multiple occasions. He's actually been taken out in every single UFC fight with the exception of his debut. And that's something worth noting, is that maybe it could be Yadong that makes the adjustment and goes to top position and grinds out this fight from top position, putting Stamann on his back. The other thing that's worth noting is Stamann puts up some big takedown numbers because he's had issues holding top position. So that becomes a problem. And with Yadong being so capable, even if Cody lands a few takedowns here or there, look for Song to get back up to his feet and start to compromise Cody's takedown, his cardio, because he's constantly getting up, getting down, getting up, getting down, shooting for takedowns, scoring them with limited return before getting back to his feet. And that's worth noting. There's the other potential that the grappling and wrestling factor could just be a non-factor. We could see it washed out and these guys compete entirely on the feet. I was very happy to see Yadong fighting the last time out of China. I was worried about the east to west travel factor. As I just mentioned, the cardio issues with Stamann, that could be a factor here. That east to west travel could be an issue before for Yadong, but I'm happy seeing him fight out of China. He fought in the United States last time out and looked very good. That should help him here as well. Overall, I like the combination on the feet of his pressure, length, and speed. I think they're all big factors here. If he moves forward and pressure Stamann. Stamann's a capable striker, but he lacks the reach to routinely touch Yadong once Yadong starts pressuring him. Stamann's a good kicker, which could be a factor to deal with the reach. But the other thing with Yadong, too, is he's also a capable counter striker. And if Cody tries to press forward and instigate the exchanges, look for Yadong to touch him up with that reach at a distance that Cody's going to struggle to land with. Cody's not one of these big, he's kind of a little bit short-armed. He's got kind of those issues there, reaching guys, especially a little longer opponents, that can touch him when he can't touch them. I think overall Yadong is the more effective striker. He's the more consistent striker. He's a little bit quicker, and with that longer reach, he's going to beat Cody to the punch more routinely. I think he's going to press forward overall, land some strikes, pick up a few counter strikes as well when Cody tries to change things. We're also going to see takedowns defended or got back up and negated, and then we'll see Yadong Song land his own takedowns. I think it's a good fight, competitive fight, but I think we're going to see a clear winner here. And my prediction is Song Yadong to defeat Cody Stamann by decision. Fight number 2 in the main card goes down to the women's bantamweight division as 8-1 Aspen lad, currently ranked 5th in the division, takes on the 7th-ranked Yana Kunitskaya, currently holding a record of 12 wins, 4 losses, and 1 no contest. Now, lad was on the cusp of a title shot, and in reality, she really still is. She was 1 win away. She lost to Germaine de Randamie. He got knocked out in kind of controversial fashion. I had Germaine in that fight. Germaine de Randamie. Sorry, I say her name wrong all the time. She's now fighting the title against Nunes, so that's got to play a little bit into Lad's, frustration and concern over the fight. She challenged the fight, said, basically if I was a man, that fight would have been allowed to continue, and it didn't hold up, but I understand where she was coming from. Overall, she's 3-1 in the UFC, and she's coming off her first career loss, which is worth noting. Now, for Kunitskaya, she's a former Invicta title challenger, had that little back and forth with Tanya Evinger, which ultimately she won the title, then it got changed. She came into the UFC fighting 145 pounds, losing to Cyborg. She has since gone on to pick up back-to-back victories over Landsberg and Marion Renault, which is very impressive because they're both tough competitors. Physically, both girls are 5'6", 2-inch reach advantage for Yana, and she is 6 years older. Now, Lad has had issues making weight, which is worth noting. Has she fixed this? Is she draining herself too much? That's a possibility. We have to see her come out and do it, and we really can't predict that. All we can say is it is a factor and could be a factor here. Now, Yana fought against Renault at her range, which was a key aspect of that matchup. Lots of movement to maintain distance, round and straight kicks to the body to really push her back. Her hands are up. She's got a good jab, long punches overall. Not a ton of power, but she stayed pretty active. 98 significant strikes against Renault, 72 against Lena Landsberg, and she just keeps working away. Now, she was wearing the heavier punches of Renault, but and that did show up a little bit later in the fight, but she was never really looking to finish. She benefited from Renault slowing down a little bit. It was a good performance, but it had a lot to do with what Marion wasn't doing in that fight. We did see her incorporate one takedown early in that matchup. She landed 5 against Landsberg. It was more effective there. And those are effective tools to score points, and she's a capable submission fighter, but she's actually better at getting submissions off her back, at least in my opinion. So I don't expect to see her spamming takedowns in this fight, but hey, it's a possibility. Now, for Aspen Lad, she's very hittable. And that was the issue against Germaine, is that she's going to eat some shots, and Germaine's a big hitter. And if she gets you too often, I didn't know if she's going to put her down in the first round like that, but if she gets you a couple times, you're going to be in some serious trouble. Now, you go back to the Eubanks fight. Eubanks outlanded her 77-69, put up some good numbers. Landsberg outlanded her 41-26, so she can be hit. Now, there is potential here that Yana could outland her throughout the fight and take a decision. Lad could press forward, just eat shots, and just not get in range to land anything, not pull the trigger. Lad striking is a work in progress. And I said, but she likes to bully her opponent, get in close, just make it a dirty, gritty, demanding fight, and just keep engaging in the clinch and at short range. She could also take Yana down with regularity. That's a huge possibility. Yana she's improved her takedown defense, but she's also willing to go to her back and look to submissions. Tanya Evinger had a lot of success taking her down and kind of from those spots, and Lad could do something similar. I feel like the pressure of Lad is the key here. I gave Yana a good long look here and really thought she's a live dog. She absolutely is. But I think we're going to see Aspen grind on Yana. She's going to work her over in the clinch at times and work her on the mat. Simply do more damage, be more impactful over 3 rounds. I feel like Lad is going to be motivated after that loss, and Yana just doesn't have the power to back her off and make her respect it, make her step back and not engage. And I think she's eventually going to get her down and wear on her and kind of return to that form we saw prior to the Germain fight, prior to the Eubanks fight, just dominate. And my prediction is Aspen Lad to defeat Yana Kunitskaya by submission. Fight number 3 in the main card transpires in the UFC's heavyweight division as Stefan the Skyscraper Struve, 33-11-0, takes on Big Ben Rothwell, 36-11-0. Maybe he's not going by Big Ben Rothwell anymore. Either way, it's Ben Rothwell. Now, Struve is returning after what was a brief layoff, retirement idea, hiatus, let's call it that. He's coming off a submission win over Rogerio de Lima. He had lost 3 in a row. Rothwell comes into this match on a 3-fight losing streak as well, had won 4 in a row prior to that. He lost to JDS back in 2016 at the height of his momentum, was almost in contention, went through a suspension, was obviously using something he shouldn't have been, and then had losses to Ivanov and Andrei Arlovski in his return, fights that he didn't look terrible in, but also didn't look that great. Now, Struve physically near 7 feet tall. He'll be 7 inches taller than Rothwell, have a 6-inch reach advantage, same weight roughly. And Stefan is the younger man by 7 years. Now, one of the first things you have to look at here is how committed is Stefan Struve. Is he reinvigorated, or is he one of these guys who's got 1 foot in, 1 foot out? He's still young, 31 years old, especially young for the heavyweight division, but he's already toying with the idea of retirement. Is he really 100% focused? That's a hard sell for me. Now, Rothwell has fought twice since his long layoff, and I said didn't look amazing. He was outworked in both. Can he find that prior form that got him suddenly some notoriety into contention? Now, the first thing I want to talk about with this fight is there is a growing trend in the UFC with fighters that coming in on 3-fight losing streaks. More often than not, they come away with a win in that next fight. Not always, but more often than not. Tisha Torres just bucked that trend recently. I think there was someone else as well. But the factors here we're looking at first is the desperation or urgency factor. 3 losses in a row and potentially staring at the end of your UFC career with a 4th loss. That puts a person in a very heightened state of awareness when it comes to their performance, and they want to put it together, they want to put it on their opponent, they want to come away with a win. In addition to that, when you lose 3 fights in a row, there's a very good chance you are getting a step back in competition, maybe a couple of steps back. It becomes a more winnable fight, and there's a perception coming into this that you're done. You've lost 3 in a row and your career is essentially over, at least at this level, and you get that step back against a fighter who's been winning some fights at a lower level, and suddenly you're being overlooked, and you come out with it was a quote-unquote upset victory. Cub Swanson just did it not that long ago against Kron Gracie. You're welcome. Nonetheless, this is that type of scenario here with as far as Ben Rothwell is concerned, coming in having lost 3 in a row. Now, Struve went through the same thing. He lost 3 in a row to Volkov, Arlovski, and Tybura before the Lima fight. He came away with a victory in that matchup. Rothwell said he's lost 3 in a row to JDS, Ivanov, and Arlovski. Is it his turn to replicate that success? Now, neither man is overly quick. Rothwell plods forward, looking to engage and find his range. That could be an issue against the longer Struve. He has power and a very unorthodox striking style to deploy that power. He actually can give his opponents issues because he's very herky-jerky, almost like Keith Jardine style, just a heavyweight version. Over his last 3 fights, he has given up 100-plus significant strikes twice, 157 against JDS, 152 against Arlovski, which was in 3 rounds, which is damn impressive for Andre. In those matchups, he landed 70 strikes, and 77 strikes. That's a decent clip for a heavyweight. Just not enough in those fights. Now, Struve's only put up that total 1 time back in 2015 against Big Nog. He usually lands in that 30 to 40 range, which is concerning if Rothwell can get into range with consistency. Ben also has a durability edge here. He might not be quite as durable as he used to, but at heavyweight, anything can change. One shot could change it. We can see this is the beginning of Ben Rothwell's downturn as far as his durability and ability to take damage. But all indications are he has the advantage here. Struve's been knocked out a ton. He takes a lot of damage. He's gotten better at mitigating some of that damage, but for the most part, he takes a lot of damage, and Rothwell is capable of putting him down. Struve is the better submission grappler. He's got those long libs, but he's not a great wrestler. Rothwell can operate on the mat. He isn't known for his takedowns, which is the thing that Struve actually benefits from. When his opponent takes him down, he can fight off his back, and he could actually look for Rothwell to try and take him down and then throw up a submission from that position. The cardio might favor Struve, but it's nothing significant, and if Rothwell fades, it is a game changer. But again, it's hard to predict here. Rothwell's cardio hasn't looked amazing, but again, he's trying to maybe find that step again that he got back to where he was. He still certainly in the heavyweight division could make a run, seeing as that he's not old. He's not young, but he's certainly not old. Rothwell's volume and durability, I think, are the keys here. Struve won't be able to match his output, So I think Ben's just going to press forward and maybe eat a couple strikes, but to get in range and land and we've seen Struve get tied up in the clinch, Struve get taken down and grinded out from top position. I think Ben's just going to mix things up and press forward and just land more offense. He's going to land those bigger shots and get him along the cage where that reach is negated. And I think Ben finds the switch here. And my prediction is Ben Rothwell to defeat Stefan Struve by knockout. In the co-main event of the evening, we're in the women's strawweight division as the undefeated 11-0-1 Marina Rodriguez takes on the 8-1 Cynthia Calvillo, two women who are on the cusp of title contention, could very much get themselves into contendership with a victory here. And it's a big fight for the division. Calvillo is kind of giving that push, that rub before, and Rodriguez is certainly climbing. Calvillo had a 3-0 start to her UFC run. She's now 5-1 total, 2 wins by submission. She's got victories over JoJo Calderwood and Courtney Casey, lost in a very close fight to Carla Esparza. For Rodriguez, she fought Randa Marcos to a majority draw in her debut. I thought she won. I had her to win that fight. I thought she did enough. And then she has decision wins over Jessica Aguilar and Tisha Torres in the aftermath. Rodriguez, 2 inches taller, 1 inch reach advantage. They are the same age. Now, this fight could be presented as a striker versus a grappler. Calvillo does her best work on the mat, and Rodriguez wants this fight done on the feet. That's what it comes down to. Or at least she would prefer that, I would think. Now, Calvillo is coming off her first fight without a takedown landed. She went 0 for 6 on her TDAs, and that's certainly worth noting. She did win the fight. She has 3 submission wins overall, was able to get on top in all those fights and work towards submissions, potentially work her way to a back mount. She's a very good scrambler. She loves that front headlock position to control her opponent and move to a superior spot once she can kind of get them controlled and she can engage them. She's strong from top position overall, very good against it from backmount. All 3 of her wins by rear naked choke, all 3 of her sub wins. She will give up position a little bit. She gets a little bit too aggressive. Not like she's going to wind up on her back too often, but it's one of those things where she'll just go for it and lose a position she could have rode out for the duration of the round and just get back to her feet and start all over again. And again, she trains with Team Alpha Male, so she's a very good overall. It's just coming from a good camp. She's very feisty, and she's got a lot going on for her in that department. Now, for Rodriguez, she gave up 2 takedowns against Marcos, lost the first round on the mat, and since then, she's looked much better. Aguilar, 1 takedown, unsuccessful, 1 takedown attempt. Torres, 7 takedowns, all of them unsuccessful. She's demonstrated much better takedown defense in her recent fights, and that is crucial here. Now, that being said, Torres and Aguilar are not at the top of their game by any stretch of the imagination. Aguilar no longer with the UFC. Torres is really struggling. She is the girl we mentioned before that bucked the trend of 3 straight losses, and it was Rodriguez that put her on her 4th. Aguilar went 1-4 in the UFC, and Torres had lost 4 in a row coming into that matchup, where 3-0 coming into the Rodriguez fight. And I don't want to call them low-level wins, but I think the value of them is a little bit inflated. That's pushing Rodriguez a little bit here. Regardless, Rodriguez is a solid striker. She had a lot of success pushing Torres, really turning her every time she came forward and making her fight her style of fight. Torres is notoriously a shorter fighter, uses a lot of kicks, has to get in range, just could not, and Rodriguez was lighting her up. Her hand positioning's good, her footwork's good, she's got some pop behind her punches as well, and Calvillo's striking is a work in progress. She's had some issues there. She showed against Casey she can win the fight on the feet if she needs to. It's not something she wants to rely on too much at this point, and I'd like to see her try and mix in takedowns. Rodriguez needs to maintain distance against Calvillo, turn her away, deflect her pressure, and make her pay every time she comes forward recklessly. I think, though, Calvillo is the best grappler she'll have faced coming into this, better than Randa Marcos even. Look for Calvillo to close the gap, drag her down, just turn into a short-range dogfight. Rodriguez has improved, but I think she's facing a better ground fight than she has over the last couple of fights. I think Calvillo could get in position to finish her, but my prediction is Cynthia Calvillo to defeat Marina Rodriguez by decision. Now, in the main event of the evening, we're back in the UFC's heavyweight division as the former title challenger, the Demolition Man, Alistair Overeem, currently ranked 6th, 44 wins, 17 losses, 1 no contest, takes on the undefeated, I want to say 9-0, but most likely 10-0. I'm guessing they haven't updated him since that. Oh, no, still 9-0 since the Andrei Arlovski went 14th ranked. Biggie boy, Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Now, Rozenstruick is replacing Walt Harris after the tragedy of losing his daughter, who was kidnapped and murdered. That's so unfortunate and heartbreaking. Thoughts going out to Walt Harris. For Rozenstruick, over a month to prepare for this matchup. 1 month turnaround as well from his 29-second, roughly a month turnaround from his 29-second knockout of Andrei Arlovski. 3-0 in the UFC so far and looking good. Overeem has won back-to-back fights over against Sergey Pavlovich and Alexei Oleinik, and he's trying to rebuild his contention. He's a guy who's a couple wins away from a title shot at really any point in time. Both men are 6'4". Overeem upwards of 20 pounds heavier, 2-inch reach advantage, and Jairzinho is the younger man by 8 years. No, so for Rozenstruik, he has won his last 2 fights in a total of 38 seconds. That's not much. In his debut against, I'm drawing a blank here. Junior Albini, my apologies. He lost the first round. 100%. And then a 54-second knockout in round 2. Arguably, you could say his 3 wins have come in roughly 90 seconds of successful fighting time. That asks us, can he win a prolonged fight at this level? What's his cardio going to be like? His only long fight ended with a split decision victory under the Rizin banner. Can he have success in a longer fight? 8 of his 9 wins have come by knockout, 7 in the first round. When does that run out at this level? Now, can Overeem avoid getting knocked out? He has 13 of his 17. He has not 13 of 17 losses. He has 17 losses by knockout. They accounted for 10 of his last 10 losses as well, including 3 in his last 11 fights. He's been knocked out 3 times. That is concerning. That's massive. Overeem's become more defensively responsible. He's attempting to limit his opponent's offense while looking for his own openings, but at the same time, he's not nearly as aggressive either. He does have significant power, 23 wins by knockout, including back-to-back wins by stoppage, and 5 of his last 6 victories have come by knockout. So he's no slouch. If he connects, you're in serious trouble. He's decent at range, but he's better to close in. Strong clinch-based attack, manipulate his opponent on the inside, land those hard knees to the body. Certainly something he could look for here. Rozenstruik's a good striker, though. Comes from that striking background as well. So I don't think Overeem's going to throw anything at him that he hasn't already seen as far as a striker is concerned. Overeem does have 17 wins by submission and shows he can take fights to the floor. He took Pavlovich down and worked ground and pound to get the finish. Could look for something similar here. Now, Rozenstruik gave up 2 takedowns against Albini, who's not a ground fighter. Spent the majority of round 1 on his back. Similar issues on the regional scene when fighters did attempt to take him down. Now, this would represent a massive divergence for Alistair Overeem from his traditional game plan, and I hate backing a fighter who needs to make a big change like that. His best path to victory here is to limit Rozenstruik's space with the clinch where he's more comfortable, use his weight advantage, really wear on him, get him into the 2nd and 3rd round, keep him pinned on the wall, and do some damage while he's there, but really tax Rozenstruik, his cardio, take away any speed advantage he might have. That's crucial. Get in and wear him down. I don't know if he can do that, though, without taking damage. Rozenstruik will need to keep this fight at range, utilize his hand speed, and catch Overeem either on the outside as he pushes forward. Is it too soon for Rozenstruik? Early in his MMA career, we got to keep in mind he's got a long combat career as a kickboxer. That's worth noting. I think we've talked about this before, and I remember Chael talking about this. Size advantage. The bigger man is not always an advantage when you're striking. They are an advantage when you're grappling, when you're in close, and you can bring that weight to bear. That's not Overeem's forte. The smaller, quicker man, which should be Rozenstruik in this situation, should have a significant advantage on the feet when they're trading. I think he's going to catch Alistair Overeem, and my prediction is Jairzinho Rozenstruik to defeat Alistair Overeem by knockout. So those are my 5 main card predictions for UFC on ESPN 7. Again, I apologize. I feel like I'm out of practice. I'm a little under the weather. It's been a long day. My profession, we were striking today. We were on the line striking, so it was a long day out in the cold. Nonetheless, all of my preliminary picks and the bet packs will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. I'm way behind. I apologize for that. So get on that. Thank you very much for tuning in as always. Follow me on Twitter at KO_predictions. You can like and subscribe my video if you'd like. Leave me a comment or two. I'll do my best to get back to you. And as always, thank you very much for tuning in, and I will talk to you very soon. Hi.